Incoming transmission.
Folks, fans, Trek warriors, and Final Frontier enthusiasts, welcome. Buckle up, because tonight we've got a huge episode of Enterprise. Sleeping Dogs. It's got Klingons, it's got guts, and it's got everything you love, so get ready for a ride. Here's what happens. The Enterprise stumbles on a Klingon ship, the Samra, trapped in a gas giant. And let me tell you, these Klingons, they thought they could fix their ship down there. Big mistake. Now they're in trouble, and it's up to Captain Archer to save the day. Klingons and smart decisions, not exactly their strong point, folks. Believe me. Our crew is on fire. To Paul, the calm and collected Vulcan, Sato showing why she's the best in communication, and Reed bringing the photon torpedoes. Gotta love it. And Captain Archer, he's right in there, risking everything to save him. And what do these Klingons do? They demand Archer surrender for violating their ship. The nerve! But Archer stands tall and tells them like it is and puts the Klingons in their place. Classic stuff, folks. Directed by Les Lando, this episode is all about guts, teamwork, and that Klingon drama we just love to roll our eyes at. Shout out to Hoshi. She is amazing in this one, relatable and bringing that human touch. So sit back, relax, and get ready, because tonight we're not letting any sleeping dogs lie. We're diving in, Klingons and all. We're going to make Star Trek great again. And there goes monetization, but that's my introduction to the episode. What do you think?
Well, apologies for not muting myself during that wonderful intro. That was like the ultimate New Yorker read-in on that. I loved it.
I remember this episode for when the show was in its first run, and this was like, I was excited after seeing this episode. I was like, this was a fun space adventure, and I think that most people will agree. Did we mess around a little bit with the Klingons? I think so. Do we invite questions about the Klingon Empire? We certainly do. And oh, by the way, guys, hit the like and follow buttons if you get a chance. In some ways, they go too far. In other ways, they don't go far enough. I have some basic issues with the behavior of the Klingon crew, but here's my question for you. I'm the Klingons. I got an empire. We fight like idiots for this empire. Like we kill each other with bathwaths. We stab each other. See, here comes the accent again. We stab each other. We do all sorts of stuff. I guess when I talk about violence and gambling, the accent comes back as well, right? Klingons just like not known for their emotional stability or their penchant to not be violent, but they're so impulsive in this one that they kind of eschew technology. And you know what? It begs the question. When I'm the Klingon top Goomba, like Emperor, like Kalis man, have like Gowron's job. And let me tell you something, Gowron, very strong leader. We could use a guy like Gowron now. But Gowron, he's a powerful leader.
The chancellor, right?
Our Klingons have managed to like incapacitate themselves because they're sometimes very dumb. And we can't figure out what's going on. Maybe that's even a little bit of a spoiler. We find some unconscious Klingons. And we've seen this one before between Archer and others, where he's been, eager to do something that's otherwise unremarkable, but he just has this Everest because it's there sort of outlook. Like, what happens? He's like, we found a gas giant in this solar system. And it's like, he's a little too enthusiastic. This is the great unknown of Enterprise. Season 5, we've addressed this, and I think JT and I have come to be more or less of one mind. I don't know. You tell me if I'm right about this one. Season 5 of Enterprise, one of the things about it is so speculative what was going to happen.
Right.
It was an irresponsible, it was very responsible to do this 2 years off when they sat down to write season 4 and finished it. And they're like, all right, wrapping up, looking ahead. We have another year coming up. What should be our goals? There were things that had to be said, like, well, William Shatner's still out there. Could we squeeze him in? And they're like, that's a great idea, man. Actually, you know what? Bill Shatner on our, could you imagine? We could have a holodeck. Well, we don't have a holodeck. We could have a time holodeck. We don't have that. We could meet aliens who do. All right, write that down. And we hear these ideas, and some of them are like loopy doopy, and some of them are great. Like the Romulan War would have been great. And if they had gone to that season 5, the problem is their budget had been cut. So like, Did we want a Romulan war that was just acted out on tactical displays and with spaceship acting, or do we want something more substantial? Like we would have wanted a movie quality war, and this is what I think. If you put in 10-season equation, I think what would have happened is if there had been a season 5, by that time the breakthrough would have been absolutely complete. There would have been a season 6 and 7, and then we would have had Enterprise the movie. It was that good. It was that good of a show. This was a movie-worthy show. The other ones weren't. Deep Space Nine's not a fucking movie.
Well,
It's not
see,
even
I
a
think
conversation.
for me, thinking about that with the budget cut, I think they would have found a way to stall a Romulan war for a season and still gotten like an Enterprise refit and gotten a bigger set on the on the back lot. They would have gotten all of that done, and then they would have had a lower cost for the CGI for season 6 because they could have just had that refit Enterprise without having to also do a bunch of Romulan stuff too. Oh, but you could have done so many different things, but you also could have grown your crew 1 or 2 people in season 5 with a refit as well. What I think they would have done in a season 6 and 7 is also start integrating more species onto the NX refit. Maybe some more Vulcans, maybe some Andorians, a Tellarite. Some, they would have said, well, we should diversify this crew up and start like showing them working together more.
This is the biggest question: is people would really have wanted to see the Romulan War. I think that with a cut budget, like what you do is in season 6, you do all of the run up to the Romulan War, and season 7, you give people some payoff and you have the war start. You end it with a cliffhanger with the war going the wrong way. And then you launch your Star Trek Enterprise movie, and it's just like Romulan War. And you give people a big budget, big screen, on-screen war. Give it as much money as you gave JJ, and just launch another Star Trek crew. These guys had potential by the end of their run. This was not like the Voyager crew, where every month, they had to be reworked because they were so flawed out of the box.
Yes. You start seeing episodes where the ship has different alien technology that's not quite hammered out into a Starfleet standard, and then you have episodes where things go awry. You've got that story too.
Here's our poll. 21 votes, better than I remember, 24%, same as I remember, bad, 19%. That's creeping up. Worse than I remember, 19%, 40%, same as I remember, good. So 67, yes, is about 62%. 52% like it. Oof. No, that's higher than that. My math skills are so terrible. JT, please add that shit up for me.
That looks like 62 to me.
Okay. Yeah.
Better and same. Yep, 62.
Yeah. All right. Then 48%. Wow. It's a dead heat. Worse than I remember, bad, and same as worse than I remember, and same as I remember, bad. Let's see if we can win some people over. The poll that's going up next will be Team Hoshi or Team DePaul, and then we'll see. We'll let that one roll for a while.
For the ladies out there, maybe they prefer Team Malcolm. We will.
Yeah. To be fair to the ladies, we'll give you a Team Malcolm, or people who just dig Malcolm. Is it 2L Malcolm, or is he 1L Malcolm?
Yeah, I think it's Malcolm.
On our first appearance of Klingons, we did that. What was weird about this show is we did our first appearance of Klingons in an episode that wouldn't admit it was Star Trek, right? It's not called Star Trek Enterprise. Joining now, I'm getting a signal from the planet below, is one of our friends. He just has to get away from those Borg drones, those pesky Borg drones. Okay, yeah, Cyrus, just run around to the northwest. That's it. There you go. Okay, he's out of sight. Get him now. Right to the bridge. Hail, Cyrus!
Stop right there, criminal scum.
Is that from Futurama?
No, that's from Oblivion. The Elder Scrolls. How could you not know that sound? I am disappointed. Anyway,
I guess I only know about Star Trek, and I have a Star Trek show where we can't call it Star Trek until after the show's over because Star Trek people hate the Star Trek people hate my Star Trek show because mine does okay and theirs fucking fails. What can I tell you? Life is funny that way. But welcome, Cyrus. We're about to start the episode. And you can vote whether you're Team Hoshi or Team T'Pol. This one's called Sleeping Dogs. Our friends the Klingons are here. We're gonna let them die like dogs, Cyrus. Here we go. We're just kidding about that. 3, 2, 1, and action.
Do you have the American subtitles?
Oh, I have not put on any subtitles of any language. We're paused for a moment while I put on the oppressive. Why don't you just call them what they are? Southern Maine, British Isle, Creole, British. I speak American, okay? I find it objectionable that I have. Yeah, exactly. I have to do this. So let's restart the episode. It's only 11 seconds in anyway. So here we go. 3. Well, let me say in English. 3, 2, 1, launch. Engage. It's like, oh, I'm sorry. I used a French accent instead. Just kidding with you, Gavin.
I want one of these.
I want one too. By the way, chicks with guns are hot.
Yes. I actually think she did pretty well.
She did fantastic, actually, because they couldn't afford to pay extra money to have her miss a lot. They had her miss like twice, but she did a great job. You know, Uhura probably wouldn't have been much better, right? She pulls out a phaser once in the entire run of movies and TV shows.
Well, the problem that's always been with phasers, and usually,
Yeah.
well, I don't. If you're still monetized, I want to keep it that way. But if you have a pew pew in real life, and you're trying to aim, you have to have it down a line of sight with your eyes, and no one in Star Trek ever aims with their eyes, it seems.
That's
Unless,
true.
so, going from the hip is usually incredibly discouraged unless you're doing some trick competition thing. Your attorney would never tell you to pew pew from the hip. So
Right. By the way,
it's a
this was
miracle she
true.
hit anything, to tell you the truth.
Please stand for our national anthem.
Istophobos, they're picking up emissions that, when piped into the speakers, generate a sound.
Yeah, there's something going on with the cloud. Critically thinking and drinking is in the house. Although
Was that a
critically,
Klingon ship?
sorry, I didn't see it right
It
there.
was
Oh,
a Klingon ship.
we have not. We have Kleenex on the and Klingons in this episode. Last week we talked about the paper towel dispenser. I think we'll see it again. And this week we have paper towels. We are trying really hard to put relatable things from the everyday world into this Star Trek.
Yes. And it's one of those crappy boxes of tissues that's probably one ply, and it hurts your nose more to blow your nose with it than just to not blow your nose at all.
Actually, Starfleet improved that, and the tissue now gives you a micro dose of space crack. So Malcolm's faking the cold. He just $25. It's a $20 cold. You know what I'm saying? As they called it in the 90s. And why am I not here? Oh, I'm over there. Let me turn off my can.
He could still be feeling some side effects from that pineapple cake they made him.
By the way, the one thing he says here, Nerd Poils mentioned that Shran was supposed to be a season 5 cast member. He had earned it, and that would have been welcome, and it would have worked. Yeah, the Kirk one was supposed to be a follow-up to In a Mirror Darkly, which to me, it's like that Captain Kirk did not survive. The top Romulan War would have been. That's something that I've seen episodes of Lockup about how there've been top Ramen wars in jail a lot. This is true. Hello, Suzanne. This is the one thing that I think from season 5 that I believe fully, because no matter what direction they go, he could have just been like, "My planet is thinking of joining your Federation, pink skin," and that would have been all he needs to say.
They say Universal Translator is an abbreviated form to UT. And I
Yeah, they
always
say UT a
mishear
lot.
him say UTI.
They
They have their
hope
UTIs.
she put in your IUD. You're gonna need it. There's 2 reasons why the Cloud Minders is better. Okay, Stephobus. Let's see if I can find the reasons. Oh, is it because of the chick? The hot Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, it's the 2 reasons why Sydney Sweeney movies are better than most other people. What did I think of the 3rd season of Orville? The Topa episode was conspicuously weak, but I think Charlie Burke represents New Trek because she starts out an angry lesbian who's selfish and an asshole, and then like at the end she dies. It represents letting go of old Star Trek, I think. What do you think of that, JT? And I think it's really good. I give it an A plus.
Yeah.
Charlie Burke represents New Trek, doesn't she? Because she's such an asshole. Then we redeem her, and then the only thing she could do is die. She does the New Trek thing where she gets emotional and starts telling the captain what to do and stuff, and he's just like, "You're relieved. Get off my bridge."
I love Hoshi toughening up here, by the way. Some good character development.
She's not just tough, she's confident, and she's like ready to have a cat fight with DePaul. I just wish they'd get into some pudding or some mud.
I think she realized she can't go and scream on every away mission when she finds, some weird alien.
You know what? When we did have the Romulans on this show sideloaded in, what we did was we used cloaking technology that I guess they weren't supposed to have. The limitation was the cloak was only probe. They could only cloak something the size of a probe, and they were sending like hypno rays to the Federation or something like that. They jammed them in. I didn't care for the Romulan. Was it two stories?
It was at least a 2-parter.
Yeah,
might have been more.
It might have gone 3. Yeah, we should ramp up to the Romulan War over several seasons. Like was said before, they can't see them. If someone sees them, someone will see them and have their mind erased. That was cool.
Just pulling up in the shuttle pod on the ship through the planetary gases.
Is it Vic Fontaine has no problem deciding? Is it Malcolm? Malcolm in the middle of Hoshi and T'Pol. That's Malcolm. Malcolm Reed, our security officer. Does Jolene Blaylock, aka T'Pol, have a very short pixie cut that's growing into Vulcan length that she can walk around with day to day, or is she wearing a very, very tight fitting wig? I can't tell.
Never figured that out.
That short. Her hair is so short and so sprayed down if it's her real hair. The thing is, it's light brown, not black, and it's the same color that the grandmother's hair is in Carbon Creek for this season. Because we keep working on everything about T'Pol. We keep, for whatever reason, tweaking them.
Mm-hmm.
This is so YouTube heavy.
You can't smell that, and he's like, "No, I've got a cold."
It's not YouTube heavy critically. I'm just really far behind, but I did get up your banner. Guys, you should follow my friend Critically Thinking and Drinking. He's a great guy, and he's a great Twitter follow.
So I loved this part where they bring up the smell on the ship, which is something
I like that too.
That you don't always get on a Star Trek show. And that makes me always kind of wonder, what does all this crap smell like sometimes? Like DS9.
We know that the humans don't smell so good. That must have been one of the. Do they have to go to like a little retreat where they learned how to human again? It's like they did a trust exercise, so you fall backwards and stuff.
And if we did the logic from Dear Doctor, we would have left right now, by the way. By DePaul telling us that information.
Yes.
There's some dead targ, which I'm sure has to just smell terrific.
At least they're not breathing their filthy targ breath. And that's a kind of a cute Klingon, huh?
Oh yeah. Couldn't they take both shuttle pods and like try to hook onto it somehow and like drag it up higher? I always wondered why they didn't do that.
I think their idea is that they would go there, see what's wrong, and like refire the engine because they had enough info to know that the engine was. Don't we find out the engine's almost ready to get fixed? When the crew stopped being able to interact, they had almost fixed everything. Let me see if I can catch up on these chats. And yeah, it is. She's one cute Klingon. One thing this show did was the casting director seems to have a type because her and Kelly Waymeyer not too dissimilar. Cutler. It's like he likes the pepper pots. There's not a lot of blondes on this show.
Right.
The Xindi storyline might have been 22 episodes might have been too much for that story because it was such a vengeful anti-Star Trek idea.
It was. Yeah.
They had to do it after what happened to them. I mean, after that attack, you had to do it. That season was mandated by the episode 1 events, but maybe they could have had more time or gotten. I mean, I guess the season has to end with you destroying or making peace with the Xindi. So, like, we still managed to have some time here and there to explore a planet like there was no pressure, though. It was very weird. It was like Star Blazers, right? It was like,
right.
The Earth has only 1 year.
That the actress in this, that's the female Klingon, has had a ton of work ever since.
Yeah.
Like multiple TV series, 1 episode here and there, 5 episodes here and there. A ton
What's
of
her
voice
biggest
acting
show?
too. Oh, there's
What's
so many. There's so many.
So she's a reliable TV actress. So they may have discovered her because it's 20 years ago, 23 years ago, right? This
Oh
episode
yeah. I
aired
mean,
in January
I'm just
of
going back. She goes back
2002.
into the 90s. She goes way
I'm
back
sorry,
into the 90s.
22 years ago. Well,
Yeah.
we're only up to January 2002. I think it's going to be peace in the new year for America.
And there we go with the grappler actually working like it should.
And let's just think about this for a minute here. January 2002. Gee, who's going to win the lawsuit to be president? I think Al Gore will probably be our next president. What do you think?
Oh, that was the year before. That was the
Was
year
it?
before. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, the election was the year before, but
The election was in 2000.
we voted.
The election was
Right.
in 2000.
The lawsuit ended like January 2001.
Yeah. Well, you said 2002.
We are the Warriors. We have our own Simons.
And of course, 2 or 3 hits to actually go down.
Someone mentioned before, let me go back, the comment. Malcolm is a great character. They give him some badass moment every once in a while. I agree. And whether he'd save him a trip, if Harry ever had such a moment, and or I don't care. As far as Harry Kim, I'll say this. When we roll out Malcolm's full personality, we've given him enough traits slowly for him to be all right. He's basically this show's Sulu. He's like not quite your frontline star. And he's got a couple of things he has to explain when we catch up with his life story.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I got beat you good.
All I can think of is dishonoring you, dishonoring your cow, dishonoring your family.
Ooh, I missed this one. Oh, you talked the particle drift? Yeah, you know what? They're proton pistols. Allegedly, I guess there was something to them. He needed to say something. That was like I saw this about like how to write Star Trek. When you have this conversation between Hoshi and Malcolm about the phaser, it just says you have to, and then you read like you leave in brackets technical babble. and then you close the bracket, and the Trek people write that for you later. Like a lore master writes that. So he had to write something that would never have implications. So as dumb as that sounded, it was like it never comes back to haunt us. Unlike dialogue in modern Star Trek, where the spinning wheels and gears make a liar of everyone in about 2 minutes.
And Gorilla's Random Thoughts says they had an escape pod or pods in DS9. That's hundreds of years later, right? That's after they already have a treaty with the Federation.
About 185 to 200 years later.
They might be so overstretched at that point that they're like, we need every warrior we can get. They may have evolved their idea of what honorable fighting should be. There's all kinds of explanations that could explain why they don't have escape pods here now, and they do in DS9.
I'm going to assume Mr. Phobos is probably
Michelle
scientifically
Bonilla.
correct.
Yes, Michelle Bonilla, Istophobos, you're correct. The set on this show for the Klingon ship is brilliant. Oh, Bonilla's been in over 100 things.
I'm doing a good job working the chat from either end, huh? I'm going up and down. I'm catching up with the ones I was slow on. Yeah, I understand that some of it is dumb. It's like, here's the thing. This Star Trek is so much less hostile to science. It's like, you don't have to compensate for proton drift. What does that really mean? It sounds a little dumb, but it's not. Sonar in space, though, you know what I mean? Like, that has implications right away and tears you out of it. Proton drift is just like, that sounds a little dumb.
Right.
You know what I noticed is, in this instance, Hoshi did look where she was firing a couple of the times. But they must have known you're going to aim here, here, and here, you know?
Oh, Hale Daniels Hot Topics popping in.
Hey, Daniel, hello. Don't worry. I'm glad you got some dinner. What did you have? I had Daniel's replicator set to 1080. I'm glad you enjoyed the song. I was just filled with emotion this week after getting the letter. It was a cool thing to get. Doesn't matter who signed it.
It's just a brilliant Klingon ship here. I love it.
Do we ever get a really good look at the outside of their ship? It's just we see it from a great distance.
I don't know.
She looks hot here.
Yes.
I'm sorry, tied up, but she's a Klingon. She's Klingon. She's not a human being, you know. She's an alien, science fiction alien.
Over 100 credits in IMDb.
Wow.
And many this year too.
I think those we're talking about the screams. Those were like, I think the random radio waves emitting from the gas giant. I think it could have been one of its moons is radioactive too, but I would.
Tucker's like,
go ahead.
That was hilarious. He's like,
just by the way, you could
kill them all, and you're going to take command.
Yeah, you can tell this is the early 21st and late 20th century because we're getting generous side boob from both sides. This entire shot is contrived for side boob, and I'm enjoying it. It's like, yeah, heave your chest more. And she's like, I was hard because I'm hot. I'm gonna go on there and be good looking with this jelly head, and she pulls it off. I think she is all natural, but I think they throw a water bra on her. Her breasts get smaller and smaller as the season goes on, as the show goes on. If she has like boob implants, they're nowhere near as big as the explants they strap on top of them. Or she has the explants, then she has her naturals, and then she has bigger ones. It's I don't know what happens. Her boobs look different every season. We should. We might need like a T'Pol boob matrix on the Star Trek thing. It's
I
like
love
how are
how he
T'Pol's
says,
boobs?
remind me to stop trying to help people, and Tucker's like trying not to laugh.
He's like, I'm from Florida. I already took her wallet. I'm using her credit cards at the ship store to get a 6-pack. Yeah, maybe I'm wrong.
He said it's a tough little ship. I just remember Worf Little from First Contact.
That was
You
about
know
the
what it was,
Defiant,
Mr.
right?
Phobos? They were
Yes.
really upset about 9/11, so they went that route because they made a common mistake that Hollywood would make it better. But I'm getting a signal from the planet below, and fresh from Xanadu is our good friend and fellow explorer on the Final Frontier. Let's bring him right to the bridge. Here he comes. Hello, Shawn Carter. Open
Hello.
your
Permission
eyes.
to come aboard.
Permission granted.
Thank you. How you guys doing?
We're doing
Great.
good. It's good to see you.
This is a great episode too.
Yeah, we're having fun watching this now that we've stripped off our spacesuits and we're wearing unitards. Take off that. Yes, you see, the director read my mind. Stop blocking Hoshi's washboard stomach. Don't do it.
Are we at the end of it right now? I didn't.
No.
No,
We're about halfway in.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
we bought some time at the beginning of the episode so that you could be here and orient yourself. We didn't want you just flying in and like giving comments off the top of your head. So it doesn't matter. We're all geniuses in the edit. Well, most of the time. Sometimes I can't
Is there
say
a Cosme somewhere so I can pop in?
Oh, yes. Let me give you the link. It's in my regular chat, but I'll put it in the private chat again.
Okay. Yeah, an encoded subspace transmission.
Yeah, exactly. He is cute. So here we got a Klingon, and he's all sick, and he's drinking some Ferengi soda or something. And it's just like, maybe could there be a connection? Hoshi's not even a little timid. She had her trial by fire. When she had to deal with those dead bodies on the vampire ship, she came back hard.
I love how it was literally translated into reactor pit.
Mm-hmm.
This was what I was talking about before the show, is the way that she's actually used as a translator is just interesting. And then the other two get to join in and take part by taking what literally means into what they would understand it to be, right? Instead of reactor pit, it's main engineering.
Right. Yeah, even their terminologies is different, which makes sense. It's like, yeah, that's engineering in Klingon. It's like, no, maybe they would call it something else. And reactor pit is very Klingon. They thought their way through this one pretty well. It's a little bit of a proto bird of prey.
Yes. Well, they call it birds of prey. The Klingon they have in sickbay.
We find out a lot about our pals, the Klingons, in this one. What are we doing here if we don't mind meld? Had that decision been made by the story group yet?
Yeah, this is an interesting scene. I wondered the same thing. Like, do they just have like an innate way to connect, like almost like they're subconsciously they're not even aware of it?
You know what? The other thing it reminds me of is Deanna's bullshit pop psychology to Barkley plexing.
Oh God, yeah.
I thought, but that was a great plot device. He's like tapping himself behind the ear continuously for the rest of the episode.
The sad thing is he doesn't keep doing it in later episodes.
I just don't know when she gets them. We're going to have to do an episode on just her breasts. Where we or a 10-minute episode, but where we have like visual aids. It's like season 1. They're very large and broken bow, but by the time we get to episode 14, they're significantly smaller.
Well, she basically just talked Hoshi out of a panic attack.
By the way, it's the Phobos. I know I'm a little behind in the chats, but yeah, she did. And also, in Broken Bow, she seems to be able to get inside Archer's mind, or we're seeing Archer dream of her. They didn't delineate that clearly, but the way she's cradling his head is purposely ambiguous. That's cool.
Mhm.
That CGI doesn't totally hold up, but it was just cool enough. It was as
Yeah, the
good as a
Targs
video
were
game.
particularly bad when they opened that
Right.
door.
What do you think of the lack of practical models here, Sean? Go ahead, decry it.
I can see why they had to use CGI. Like getting really good models to look good takes a big budget. I mean,
Should they have made models and scanned them?
they could have. I don't
Wouldn't
know.
it have been much more real? Especially if you want to blow one up.
Maybe they did.
I have heard rumors, Sean, that happened.
I love it. He's like, "Kapla, what does that mean?" And he just smiles and says success. I'm like, yes, that's exactly
This is
not how
definitely-
you want to say that in front of a Klingon.
By the way, behind Archer, my CD rack from that exact period of time from Bed Bath
Yes.
and Beyond. What the fuck were they thinking?
Oh my god!
It is.
Everyone recognizes it at once, and it's got CDs on it. The only thing about this that I was able to justify was it makes sense that they would still have a similar looking data storage device, except that that's got everything known in mankind's history on it because it's so
Yeah.
big.
Well, to be
That
fair, I got
look-
mine at Kohl's. So
By the way, this is like a great thing here. It's like we have this Klingon science fiction Klingon alien, right? Who has been out cold, and it's just like we reverse roofie her and like, hey, how you doing? It's the only way I can come up with to describe how we wake her up, because Phlox is able to snap her on.
she's very reminiscent of the Duras sisters, but it's not like she has that sound and the look. Like
I like her though.
Yeah,
I like her. I like the costume. I like the makeup. She acts well. I like this character.
Well, Istafobos setting the record straight. Enterprise was made by UPN. Their president's net worth is a measly $10 million compared to the CEO of Ticketmaster.
That's
By
like
the way,
pauper wages in LA.
How much of the $50,000 Taylor Swift tickets does this guy get? Welcome, everybody.
yeah. I looked her up. I thought I maybe had seen her in other Star Trek stuff, but I was wrong. This is her only credit for the Klingon officer.
Now, this was a novel idea. Blow up one of their torpedoes and get the exploding gas to push them higher.
Mm-hmm.
To grope in the darkness.
I mean,
Never
to
mind.
be fair, that plan got me through many a date. I'm being serious.
This was the one part of the episode where I kind of like,
Got a little pyro on the ship here with Ensign Sato.
blow it up.
Like, wipe them out. All of them.
But what this part that's coming up here, they say load ports 1 through 6. Like they didn't. No Klingon ship fired
Welcome to
6
Battlestar.
torpedoes simultaneously. This is a bird of prey, right?
Yes.
So yeah, they have 1 torpedo bay. They don't have 6. Well, maybe they have 1 aft, but no, they don't. They don't have it aft. That's the D7.
Well,
Maybe
it's
they
an earlier
MacGyvered
bird of
6
prey.
of them all together.
I'm sorry?
Maybe they like MacGyvered 6 of them all together.
Well, no, they said load ports 1 through 6. They're like there's
Yeah.
6 torpedo ports. That part didn't. I guess you could nerd explain it and say, well, it was
No, it's
dangerous and
fine. It's
they
fine.
changed their.
How about this one? It's just they load up the ports, but the ports are a cylinder, and they revolve in front of the actual tube, and then they fire 1 torpedo. So they load 6 at a time.
like a Gatling gun or like a rotating barrel
Yeah.
shotgun. Okay,
Or Alec,
there you go.
or here's a better one. Alec Baldwin is running the torpedo room.
We are totally
Allegedly.
demonetized.
Allegedly.
Here comes that strike.
Oh, jeez.
Well, survival is guaranteed if you stand behind him.
There you go.
It's a 7
So we are 46% Team Hoshi. I can't vote. That's why.
Oh wait, there's a poll.
13 votes. Yeah, Team Hoshi, Team
Oh, boy, is
T'Pol,
there
or
a poll.
we don't discriminate here. Team Malcolm. He's not doing very well though. The sanctimonious, Malcolm, not doing very well.
Now you got demonetized.
That ship sailed the first 5 minutes of this fucking show.
It kind of did. Yeah.
Okay, I just voted, but I don't know what the premise of the question. So I know
which team are you on?
Do I like more?
Yes.
For this episode or for the whole show?
I don't.
If you had to be in the decon chamber with one of them, which one would it be at the end of this episode?
I voted wrong.
You can change your vote.
You can change it to Malcolm. We don't judge.
All right. You know what? Is it that they don't do enough with Mr. Mayweather, or is that he's not the best actor? Actually, his reactions are good there. It's like his dialogue delivery is not as good as the rest of his acting.
I think it's the writing.
RRTNZ is saying this is Vaughn Armstrong.
Is that someone we've seen in other Star Trek? Is that why?
I believe so.
Well, let's look. I've got the IMDb page up for that episode.
Thank you.
Or I did anyway, until I clicked on Jolene.
She's no dummy. She actually, to have a place in the Hamptons, you got to have a lot of jack too. She's very, very well off.
Yeah, Vaughn Armstrong. There he is. Nice.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. Phobos, I agree with what you say. There's a reason why we don't see tall, lean women with huge boobs before, like, the 1980s, isn't there? There's a reason why.
And,
so Vaughn Armstrong cameos as the Klingon captain, keeping up his record for most guest appearances. That's got to go back to TOS. Was that the something old, something new, something borrowed, something blue? Here we go.
I thought Jeffrey Combs had the record.
Well, he's in 18 episodes of Enterprise.
There's two ways to look.
He's also Admiral Forrest. He's also Admiral Forrest.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. He's in a bunch of Star Trek games. He's also in 5 episodes of Star Trek Voyager.
But does a recurring character nullify the guest appearance thing? You know what I mean?
I don't know. He was 5 different people in Voyager. Telliker Moore in Eye of the Needle, 2 of 9, a Vidian captain, the Alpha Hirogen in season 7, and Karath in the series finale.
Was that from memory?
Memory Alpha, perhaps.
No, I didn't know. Are you looking at it? Or
I'm reading it.
Okay. Well, you read it well. It sounded like you were just like pulling it out of the Rolodex.
No, I don't know that much about those guests.
Oh wait, here's the scene. Here it is.
I thought it was coming.
Now here's what you're voting on, people. Captain Archer's theme.
Yeah. Okay. So honestly, looking at it here, I guess it's time we have to. This discussion it needs to be had. It certainly doesn't appear to me that of these 3 people, Malcolm is the one with the implants. If you ask me, no. The Chilean Blaylock's breasts certainly do not look like they are natural at all. So, everything's on the table because I think we see her boobs get smaller. So, for some insane reason, and I don't know if they're doing it at this moment, but her costume makes her boobs even bigger. Like, for some insane reason, like they're like, she's not complete yet. She needs a water bra. And I'm like, she's pretty completely hot. Hoshi is just a normal fit. Yeah, but Blaylock was she was a fitness model, and so is Trip. To which I say, she really did a great job of raising her game and being a really good Star Trek actress. I appreciated how hard she worked. She's immediately effective, and she has a tough Star Trek actress job. Hoshi's is harder. You've got to be a real actress to do what Hoshi pulled off.
Oh, you talking like with the foreign languages and stuff?
And the squeaking and like a bird and jumping around and clucking, doing the funky chicken for like
their
14
whole
minutes
reel
on end.
reminds me of something, especially how they just took everything and they're Klingon. So of course it's about the alcohol, right?
Take what you can. Give nothing back.
Yeah, and Teague,
that's not pirates. That's pirates.
I don't know if
Isn't that what Klingons are? They're space pirates.
We're going to entertain this for a couple more minutes. And what's weird is this is one of the safer things to talk about on YouTube. Guys, are we okay? Can we be a little toxic here? I'm going to be a little toxic.
Go for it. This show was stylistically designed to be that way.
Well, the ending for sure. Yeah.
All right,
before you go, Admiralty, I wanted to say that before I forget. I want to take issue with the way that they titled this episode. Klingons are not dogs. It was a very insensitive title to the show.
I thought so too, but then I realized that like it's thought crime because you can't be istophobic to a group of people that or whatever that doesn't exist. The thing that made me realize this is a very difficult episode to talk about because of that aspect. We have to dance around it. Is likening people to animals is like against terms of service. So it's just like when you talk about Star Trek or any science fiction, you invite the dumbest AI to think you're talking about facts. So without giving anybody like a how-to of how to be on YouTube, because that's not what this is about. We got to be a little careful about
that.
This.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, we have to talk about like the Targ, and we can never call it anything but a Targ, and we have to like keep referring to this as science fiction to disclaim the stupidest AI till the AIs get smarter. And
but
after the election, I think it'll get worse for 2 or 3 months too. And then
we can, you're right. Yeah, but we can anthropomorphize stuff. So
yeah,
we
you know what?
Go the opposite way.
We saw a weird episode with a weird mistake with the anthropomorphizing last week, where it was the person wondering about the anthropomorphization was Dr. Phlox. You know, I can't understand why he talks to his dog, but he had already been talking to his plants and weird animals in his menagerie.
Yeah,
and
he started the episode talking to them.
To which I say, couldn't if he's writing a letter, how about it's like I don't understand why he talks to his dog, but I have taken up doing it to my animals as I feed one of them to the other. It's like, there you go. Like saying encouraging things to the one that's getting eaten. It's like, go ahead and be nutritious, because that's the way Dr. Phlox is. He just doesn't quite connect. He sees things in a totally different way. And he presented us with one of the darkest and most divisive episodes of Star Trek. And that upload, whoa, it's catching up to 1923 and Alex Kurtzman fairly quickly. People seem to enjoy the uploads, and we'll find out how well this one does. I actually have to change the poll. We're going to find out which team people are on right now, and then we'll get on to grading this episode, and we'll get on to talking about the episode. Yeah. So while
by the way, I could not retract my vote. So I
could
guess
not. They've changed it. All right. I'm trying to vote for Malcolm, but I can't. Guys, it's 56 minutes, 16 votes. Very good. Scientifically accurate.
I don't want Malcolm. No.
Team Hoshi, 50%. Team T'Pol, 50%. Shawn Carter, if you could change your vote, what would it be?
I would have been Team T'Pol.
There we go.
Good man. Special interest deadlock the votes. Special interest. Man. Why did Harris win? I don't understand. It says Harris on my interface. We're gonna have to check out these late dumps of votes. Cats and dogs living together. It's horrible. You know, you know what? It's absolutely horrible. This episode does some character building around a practical dilemma, a ticking clock mystery, in contrast to last week's heavy ethical dilemma. You know what? Star Trek's last week's episode was the kind of heaviness that I do enjoy from Star Trek, and I do enjoy the way we had several plot elements. I think that people like tropes. They don't like overuse of tropes. They don't like the trope show. They don't like a show made from tropes. But like, if we throw in one or two things, like let's have a ticking clock, or this episode is a medical procedural, and that episode was both. We combined two what we would call, not really the ticking clock's a trope, but is any trope also a plot device, or does it become a trope when the plot device fails?
I don't think I've had enough whiskey to understand that one yet.
Same here.
Although someone said last week in the chat, I recall that it was like we had spent more time talking about the episode than it lasted, and I think that's a good indicator of a good episode when you spend more time talking about it than the episode actually was.
Yeah, and we're going to enjoy talking about and unpacking this episode now. I think what we could do is we could take down the poll about Hoshi and T'Pol. Like we have it was deadlocked, and you know what? As it should be. You know what? I would like to have both of them here at the same time to help me decide, but I'm putting a heart
well
on RRTNZ's chat. Thank you so much. And you know what? Thank you to everyone who was going to listen later. I have to make a note to put this part in. Or to actually, what I did last time is I recorded a little beginning to the uploads that I've been doing. So I'm going to just thank right now if part remains in, or if you're out of your circadian rhythm and you're listening to it live instead of the uploads. I want to thank everyone who supports the community and the show by listening to the uploads. There's an Enterprise playlist now. It's pretty good. The panel changes a couple of times till it stabilizes. Germ's not gone. He's just got Richelieu flu. We can't wait to have him back. And if you're listening, buddy, we hope you're feeling better. Although I think he might be in like Robitussin land. But he might be listening. That doesn't mean he's not listening. It's just that he's in Robitussin land. I hope you feel better. But RRTN said, thank you so very much, my friend. Let's see. This episode does some character building around the practical dilemma, ticking clock mystery, in contrast to last week's heavy ethical dilemma. Now, this was a question I was about to ask you as we start going around the horn. And while we go around the horn, let's take a quick look at some Thrones and Liberty gameplay. But JT Kirk, who is our friend over here, JT, as we look at Thrones and Liberty, we had a ticking clock here. You seem to, among most people, have the most disdain for tropes, but I feel like you have only seen them used badly. When tropes are elevated to a level of plot device based on what I just kind of said, which might not hold beyond this conversation, but when it's a plot device, like it's not a trope, it's a true MacGuffin, because like we don't have any MacGuffins in JJ Wars, right? We have really bad plot devices that just get swapped out for other plot devices, and like even his MacGuffins are actually plot holes. But that's a whole nother story.
Yeah.
That knife from Rise of Skywalker and both of those wayfinders, and how does Rey get from the Death Star to Exegol? Because all right, really quick
Don't even try to reason it out.
I have to do my rant on this really quickly. In Rise of Skywalker, we carefully set up two fucking stupid MacGuffins. 3. We have 2 wayfinders that you have to have to find Exegol, and we have this knife that only works if you stand in the exact same place at the exact same time. And like, I guess JJ had played that fucking video game. What is it? Orient?
No, he had just seen the Goonies, and he remembered the coin with the rocks.
Isn't that an Indiana Jones too? It's like, he flips like they're digging in the wrong place. It's kind of a riff on that too. He's like, Uncle Steven will be so proud of me. And it's just like, it's the stupidest fucking plot device ever. It's like, it's the outline of the place that we knew to go already. It's the outline of the place we knew to go. Oh wait, it has a pointer to show the exact part of the place we knew we needed to go to already. When was this thing forged? And that thing in that ocean, how is there that much left? So then when Kylo sees Rey, he crushes the Wayfinder in his hand. So that's one gone. He has the other one hooked into his ship, which is the only way to get to Exegol. He takes his ship and fucks off after she unkills it. No, how does Kylo get there? Because I assume Rey gets there in Kylo's ship, right? Because that has the Sith Wayfinder in it. He's crushed the other one. How the fuck does he get there? There's no ship. She stole his, and she got there on the Falcon, which leaves without her. They're just like, thank God she's gone. But so like all MacGuffins make no sense. So in this, returning to rant over, write down the time code on that one, Admiral. You know what? Honestly, my 1 hour 45-minute rant notwithstanding, in this episode we have a ticking clock. What did you think of that?
The ticking clock on this, I did not have that much of a problem with it. I think because the ticking clock was already there before the episode started, and it was, I guess,
scientifically sound also.
Yes, for the most part. I don't think they went into too much too deep into it to the point where things start to fall apart, right? It's just done at a high enough level where they try to get themselves to go up a little bit with the explosions, and it doesn't work. And the fact that it doesn't work actually does it more of a favor, I feel like, on at least those first few, ignoring the 6 torpedoes in the tubes all at once that Shawn brought up, right? I just don't.
I was shocked by that too. I'm guessing maybe it's a heavier cruiser. How about this? They need a lot more photon tubes because their disruptors take a lot longer to recycle.
Maybe back then, or maybe like they found out it was just too dangerous, and like, hey, we just need one.
I think that would just make them worse about it. If the Klingons found out something was too dangerous, like, then we will have the honor of putting 18 photon torpedo tubes on our ship. It's like, and the glory of having 85 photon torpedo ships goes to the HMS Photon. And this is, I keep forgetting to complete this question. So let me ask this question. What's the deal with the Klingons? This is the only thing I can come up with that prevents full war. So it's going to be my headcanon, and then you guys tell me what you think. We have these Klingons. They're out there. They act hostilely. We have hostile encounters with Klingons. We're fighting Klingons. Klingons are killing Federation. Federation are killing Klingons. It's science fiction violence to the nth degree. We're trying to go to war, and we get stopped by the Organians, godlike beings who don't want us to fight. And then, finally, we find out that we have an uneasy truce. Do we ever have open hostilities with the Klingons? It seems not, but that's not the real question. You can answer that first and then get into this. It seems to me that we don't have an open war with the Klingons, is my opinion, because when the Klingons start attacking and fucking shit up, the Klingons, like their emperor, like Galron the First or whatever, Kalos the 45th, he's like, you do not understand our ways, Earthman hypocrite. You say that you understand others, but our way is that when you leave the Empire, you're a free agent, and we don't endorse what you do. When you come back, you're one of ours, and no one can fuck with you. Don't scoff at our ways. And then the Federation was just like, So when they leave, they're wild cards, but when they go back, they only and then it's like, what do you think? And like Starfleet Tactical Operations was like, well, I mean, I think that means they have limited command and control and only within their own sector. It's like, how do we retaliate against that? What will happen is a swarming attack and a low-intensity war that'll never end because it won't be coordinated. Well, what do? The best policy is probably to deal with the Klingons on a case-by-case basis, accepting the fact that they just don't know how to act. I think that like the Federation political people were like, all right, here's the deal. Well, if the Klingons come out and there's more than 4 or 5 of them, we're going to call it coordinated, and then we'll go after the Klingons en masse. But if one Klingon captain goes nuts like the guy by the Genesis planet did, capiche, what are you going to do? It's like, that if we go after him and start fighting too much, what are we going to do? We just got to, we have to write this one off. The Klingons are free agents unless they come out en masse.
To my own personal headcanon explanation on this, but I think it might be the Occam's razor explanation on this, is the Klingon Empire is simply not as large as what it was even in TOS. And to that point, they have not tried to conquer Vulcan or Andoria or even Earth
I think
because
they're
the
far
Empire is
away
too
in that.
small. I don't know if it's distance necessarily as it is size, because if you're going to try to occupy and subdue a planet, that's going to require a tremendous supply chain and infrastructure and a coordinated military effort to actually have an occupational force. And nothing that we know about the Klingons implies that while they're warlike and militaristic and will do these raids, there's nothing that says that they're actually in the business of going after these.
Massive, large-scale war.
Well-
Right. Yeah, they'll conquer some worlds of really, really weak ones, but are they conquered or
anything-
dominated at this phase?
If anything, they seem honor-bound to never lose, so they fight themselves a lot. It's like, we won again!
Yeah, I've got a thought. So, in at least we're talking with Enterprise with this show. The Klingons are maybe a half a step ahead of Earth as far as technology goes. Like their ships go
Some,
just about
yeah.
as fast. They don't have transporters. They have photon torpedoes, which piqued Malcolm's interest, but they're barely higher. So maybe, if we picture, maybe the Klingons have another like 20 or 30 years head start as far as starting to explore space. And maybe they're just overreaching a little bit. Like they're so aggressive. They're like, let's just start fighting everybody. And it thins them out. And they haven't learned to kind of get used to it yet.
So they're dealing with like a couple of different things going on, including that their empire might not be as stable or as strong as it appears.
Sure. Yeah.
And the labor-intensive work of day-to-day being the daily oppressor. Planets, they need all that shit to find, yet there's people and tech who build thousands of destroyers. So only a few million knew where it was. Star Wars for morons. Yeah, that's what circling back to Rise of Skywalker. I had to have that rant. You talk about plot devices, that's one thing. I think people like enjoy and find plot devices familiar. It's like when we realized last week's moral dilemma revolved around the medical procedure. I was like, okay, this is a doctor's episode. We're going to see it through his eyes, and he had whatever views he had. But
well, this one had a short ethical dilemma in the beginning.
It's right, by the way. Oh, what do we let them just? Do we just forget about their problems and
let them go? Yeah, to Paul's trying to tell them to forget it, and then
leave them to their fate.
It was a slight ethical. I mean, they solved it very early.
Moderate.
We're going down this road. It's not, but they
Archer jumps right in there with like, "Fuck that! We're going to save them, whether they kill us for doing it or not." And
so did Malcolm. Well, it was Malcolm. Malcolm's like, no, I'm not letting these people go.
But see, here's where I find it interesting. Last week, they chose not to save that civilization, even though that civilization asked them for help and they had the cure. Here, they did not necessarily have an easy ability to do it, nor did the Klingons ask. Yet they forcibly saved them anyway. So what's it going to be, Captain Archer?
Best interest.
What's
Captain Archer's kissing a little Klingon ass. I think he wants to get them right by the ridges and have them understand how he feels, and he's doing a little umox. Or I'm sorry, that's for Ferengis. He's filleting the Klingons a little bit. In my opinion,
they're not having it though. They're like, we'll destroy you for saving us.
At the end, he learns a couple of things about how to deal with Klingons, though. He's like, all right, in your piece of garbage ship where you could just leave and stay alive, but you've elected for the way of pain. Go ahead and see if there's any honor in being the first people blown out of the sky by the great NX-01. I can't wait to paint your ship on the side of my hull. That seems to be how Archer comes at him after dealing with the female Klingon a few times. He's like, I've dealt with the females. The male will be no problem.
Yeah, they couldn't. I always kind of had a hard time with it because I know that they have to kind of keep the Klingons real. They had to keep them real aggressive, through this because they didn't make any peace.
The problem that I see with this is that these Klingons are TNG and thereafter Klingons, where the Klingons have a lot of honor. And that is inconsistent with TOS Klingons, who are very deceptive and underhanded and dishonest.
There is a point in this show where that may or may not be addressed, Admiral. no spoilers allowed, right? But
Is it the same way we address the Ridge thing?
I believe so.
Oh
right.
yeah.
Here.
I
Okay,
believe
maybe
so, but I wasn't going to talk about any of that.
that episode is going to be really, really hard and require a pregame meeting to discuss for reasons that everyone here understands, because they give them
Yes.
some stuff in that. We're really going to have to be very careful with that one. Low-level conflict always sees the MO for the Klingon Empire. It can escalate for short periods, but nothing seems super sustained. This was my takeaway. It was like Admiral Teague, but the Admiral Teague from Pirates. Admiral Teague, Captain Teague, Keith Richards, Johnny Depp, Jack Sparrow's father. He's the captain of his own ship, but he's also like the guy who's got the book, like from the from Piece of the Action. He's got the book with the lore in it that they got from people who came from another planet and left them a book about pirates. And he's just like, nah. And he plays guitar. Like they use Keith Richards well, but he goes out there and he leads the pirate fleet, but they only can unite for like a little bit of time and for a certain cause. If they had been successful in any venture, they then would have started immediately squabbling over the treasure or whatever was to be gained from it, or the losses, and how to compensate for it. So that's the nature of it. I think maybe the Klingons just like they've got their Keith Richards Klingon is like, the laws, the wall. And like when he wants to, he's like, admiral of the Klingon fleet if they go to war. And it's kind of like the Klingons, but like a mashup between like the sick man of Europe, Turkey, like Russia that can't get food to market before it rots, and like the mafia all rolled up into one. And just they sort of analogize that way because their system of moving up is kind of mafia-like.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have to make the workaround in, like I said, just TOS Klingons or original series Klingons are very, very deceptive. They're very creepy. They're very underhanded. They're very mean. But sometimes they're game to cooperate, like in the Dove. It's the TOS Romulans, the original series Romulans. They have the honor. Mark Leonard, the Romulan, is like in another world. Earth Captain.
I could have called you friend. Yeah.
Would have called you friend.
A great episode that I reviewed. I remember.
Yeah. Yes, we had a great time with that. That was the one you wanted to talk about. I asked about Take Me Out to the Holodeck, and I have never stopped talking about the 300-mile-an-hour fastball and why not play the game on the planet. And I want you to know that I made RIP to our buddy Bird of Prey 5 insane with that. I'm like, yeah, if Cisco's so smart, how come he played the game in the holodeck instead of the park-like planet below? And it's like, until he grew the goatee. It's like, no, he had the goatee. It's like, all right. And he had his full IQ. It's Cisco's IQ goes up when the goatee came in. And Bird was just like, it made perfect sense to play the game on the holodeck. I was like, is that because the Vulcans could have thrown the ball 300 miles an hour? It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? I was just like, well, I mean, Spock is 5 times stronger than a human, so wouldn't what do you think? Like, was it because he wanted to have the holodeck suppress the sonic boom when the ball was thrown? It's just like, fuck you. All right. I could have antagonized the man enough for one day, but that was a fun little knife to twist about Deep Space Nine. Thank you for that one.
There's so many moments in Trek where it's like, wait a minute, like there's I know we're not even there yet, but in Journey to Babel, when Amanda slaps
when the Romulan
Spock,
commander pretends to be Spock's father. No, yeah, that was great, actually.
Yeah, but in Journey to Babel, remember, like Spock's mom says that go and give save your father's life. And she slaps him and walks out of the room. Spock goes up to the door and puts his hand on the door and puts his head down. I'm like, why didn't the door open for him? Like the door knew he had a little emotional moment that we needed to see.
It's true. I mean, we've all sci-fi is guilty of that too. And I mean, people were talking about it today with things like The Acolyte. It's like, we know there's no sound in space. We know there's no fire in space. when the Death Star blows up, we could tell ourselves, okay, there's some air inside, and that's why it blew up, and it would make sense it would burn, okay, for a minute. And like you've got enough headcanon and enough like shreds of reality for something like a Death Star blowing up the cell as an explosion instead of being like, oh, it just should have like collapsed into itself because of the vacuum, or some sciencey thing that's like, I don't want to sound like JJ, but to a certain point, we've all suspended disbelief. And then there's like a campfire on the wing and you're playing like in the light where it's like you could have had a really cool zero-G fire. People were talking about it today on another show. It's something I'd been thinking about the whole time. It's like that fire could have worked if it merely looked like it had been blown back and been like a weird color. It's like they're enormously conscious of this in Star Trek. So like once again, we had an episode where we didn't break people's disbelief too hard. It's logical that she would have went along with their emotional decision to stay inside the decon chamber a little longer because the Klingons are that gross.
The writers had enough knowledge to not humanize her too quickly, because we know that she's going to show different sides and emotional states as the show progresses, as it should. But they didn't jump into it, and that was good, because it's got to be hard, because you want to write things like that. And it was very good that they held back and slowly kind of brought her out of her shell. And this is one of those first cracks that we see here.
I agree with that. Just very quickly, what Buddy's saying about Mark Leonard. I only realized that was him this week. I watched some clips from the show. Mark Leonard's in the Planet of the Apes TV show that I loved when I was a little kid. And
he was also the captain in the motion picture, right?
He's the Klingon captain.
Yeah.
He has the distinction of being a Star Trek actor who's played every species but human.
He's the first Star Trek actor to speak Klingon. I just realized that. Whatever he says.
He's the first Romulan we see.
Mm-hmm.
He's the only Serac we need to see. Every other Serac sucks. Every New Jack Serac sucks. Maybe New Jack is a good way to put it. It combines it. I don't know. I can't call it the other word too much because I know that brings the evil down on us.
Yes, indeed.
And by the way, like YouTube's gonna YouTube. Whatever happens. I'm glad to have this panel, and the uploads have been just so generously followed. We'll find out what people think of this episode. And I guess now we'll get down to the science of reviewing it. Cyrus, I don't know how much of the episode you saw. Did you get here before we put it on? My man?
I saw the whole thing.
All right.
So I thought it was an enjoyable episode.
Yeah, I'm going to let you start. While our audience is grading the episode, why don't you tell us what you thought? Just speak from the heart. You're not held to the same standards as the Klingon. You're the normie, but you like the show, and you're already.
This is the first Enterprise episode that actually showed Klingons, right?
No, the first one did. Premiere movie, but the thing is, this might be the first episode. If you didn't see the premiere movie and jumped in like week 2,
well, I mean for Enterprise, not for the whole thing.
This is the first regular season appearance of the Klingons in their show, but canonically, we've seen them already.
But yeah, I thought it was enjoyable. The good thing is you always know when it's a Klingon. Not by the Klingons themselves, but the ships. The ships always look more badass than the other ships. They always have this particular kind of series designs, and only the Klingons would put at least 6 torpedo tubes on a scout ship. Hey, they're warriors. It's what they do. Overall episode, I'd say pretty engaging. There were a few lessons there. Not too many. It was basically just learning from the Klingons, which
it was time to have fun, I think.
Yeah, and honestly, I would probably rate it B+, A-, one of the two.
Oh wow, that's incredible. So Cyrus gives it an A+, B-. We'll go over to third base, and JT, go ahead.
Sure. So I liked this episode for just. Maybe not necessarily being the most Star Trek of all time, but we'll go through the matrix on that. I did love, again, Hoshi's use of language and reading things, coming out of her shell a little bit better, trying to improve as a character by trying to get some courage for the away missions and volunteering. all of that kind of stuff was great for character development. I enjoyed
anything,
Mhm.
real quick. If anything, didn't it seem like all of a sudden after the vampire ship and the other fucked up stuff that happens, like all of a sudden now Hoshi is trending towards danger junkie, and it's just like you want her in bed that much more. Like how much crazy shit would she do? It's like I'm gonna throw you up against the wall and start kicking your ass for a while. It's like all right,
Well, I think
fine.
she might be maturing. She's definitely one of the youngest on the crew, right? Between that and the helmsman, who is
I
younger
kind of
than
see it
her.
as a little bit of like just another step, like slightly less immature. Is like she's
Mhm.
gone from like too afraid, and like now like she's gone to. It seems like she's gone to the other extreme. She's like, out of the way, to Paul. I'm gonna go over there and beat the fuck out of anything in my way. Give me like what phaser. Give me a club with some nails in it. She's like, she was badass in this. She was like, I'm ready to go. I'm not very afraid of shit anymore. It was on a vampire ship, and I
Exactly.
appreciated that.
Yeah, for sure. The other part of that was I loved the use of literal language translation in
Mhm.
trying to work out and hash that out to figure out what it means. Because yes, she could be very brilliant at translation of literal phrases, but I think it is rare that you will find that a language uses everything literally in all contexts. In fact, I would say
Yeah.
no human language does that. So there
It
was some
makes you
interesting
wonder
things
what the
there.
Vulcans call the engine room.
Right, right. So then I loved the Klingon, the guest actress that we had on there was very cool. I do not recall her name. It was difficult to say when I read it the first time.
Lady side
So
boob.
It was like Baku or Baku.
Oh, that's ringing a
something
bell. Every
something
time I've heard
like
it,
that.
rings a bell. Yeah.
The use of the correct use of the grappler where it doesn't miss in open space. It seems
Yes.
like it does that when the plot needs it in other episodes. So some things I do like there that really helped this episode, and of course the final scene was highly toxic. But I
Yeah.
like watching it every time. So that was fun. I
Just
also
because
liked.
Paul's a powerful leader. Yes. Yeah. I've got to get that video now. That's become the biggest meme in the last 2 months.
And just to wrap up my review on this, I did like the acting and the character play between Reed, Sato, and T'Pol
Mhm.
on that ship, and them solving the problem together. It's season one, so there's plenty of variations of crew to get yet on this show, but the three of them I think did work pretty well. I think the
Mhm.
actor and actresses on that did a fine job of playing that off, and it was a well written enough episode where they had the chance to do that. So yeah. Oh, in the
Yeah.
intro, once again, I want that thing.
The medical device.
Target practice thing.
Oh, that's
Oh
right.
yeah.
Yeah. You know what? What was weird was we had like a blue and a red like cylinder inside. Is one the kill barrel and the other the stun barrel? That's what I got the impression of. That's what I thought. Like it's like maybe a manual switch, because we saw Archer like he had to like grab the entire outer housing of his gun and do something that made something inside rotate under what I guess would be a vinyl sleeve. The prop for the phase pistol, I don't know if they're going to keep doing this, but the phase pistol is extremely physical. It seems to need to be cocked and other stuff like that, but whatever. So JT, you're great again.
Well,
I give this go ahead.
No, you, because you weren't done. You still have to give your grade too.
Oh, overall, I would say A minus.
Wow. All right. Okay, so is anything else?
Yeah, I
give
got
my
something
time
as
back.
well. When after you first.
I give my time back.
Well, Shawn gets to go, and then we'll go back from we'll go to Cyrus to JT. So go ahead, Shawn. Give us your overall.
Well, overall, I'll start. I give it a B. Nothing really too bad about it at all that I could point out. But I only give it a B because I know there are a lot other episodes like the one we reviewed last week. I gave the A, so this doesn't get to that level for me. So giving it a B, but it's a good B. It's not. There's nothing really wrong with it. It's just not a stellar, amazing episode. An A I reserve for ones that I'm going to go back and refer to and talk about over and over. This one, good episode, but let's go to next week. What's the next one coming up? I do agree with JT Kirk what he said about that interplay between those three characters was good. It was something new to the show that we hadn't seen yet, and it's really good. Now, I do want to point out, like you had said something about the phase pistols. If you recall, when Malcolm is helping Hoshi, he says if these were live rounds, which was really interesting to me. I'm like, what do you mean?
That was a strange choice of words.
Yeah. So it makes me wonder if that's why they're clunky. Maybe it's actually little pellets in there that release the energy or something.
It was very strange. Like he didn't want to use the term like is it because the cylinders are around? It's like I've put in this is fully charged. It's like this battery reserve is enough for 400 shots. Something like that.
Right. Yeah, he said rounds. So I'm like, maybe it was just a writing mistake.
Was he talking about rounds of shooting practice?
Yeah, when Hoshi was having trouble, like she only got 50% accuracy or something.
No, but I mean, he's like, these rounds are fully charged. Were we making a mistake in thinking he meant the rounds in the weapon, and when he meant this round of the game is fully charged?
No, because she missed. Weird. He said your hit ratio is under 50%. If they were live rounds, you would have blown a hole in the bulkhead.
It is weird. Yeah, that is true. Like, if this had been set to 100%, would have been better. If this was on full,
probably just an oversight with writing.
But how do you have that kind of oversight? That seems. I'm going to take issue with the idea it was oversight. I'm going to say this: that was a failed attempt to inject humanization.
But you know what's so funny? Because things like that happen, it's not. I just you got to realize it may not have been the writer. It could have been. The line could have definitely been written if the phase pistol had been 100% as to thing, then it would have been a whole note. I could see the director going, no, just say live rounds. Let's get through the line. You're making it too techie.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I can imagine it. It's just like, just say it and the whole 9 yards. No one knows what it means, but they use it anyway. It's just one of those. It's just left over in speech. So just like that's our excuse. You gave it a B. You have anything else to say about this one before I go?
No, but I know Cyrus had something extra to pop in there. But that's
Cyrus. Go for it.
Yeah, I actually forgot about this, but at the very end, where after all they've been on, when even the Vulcan shows a little bit of camaraderie between them, that's actually kind of a nice little touch if you think about it.
As Paul said, they've been there 90 years. Think about how much reading human literature and the human TV that would have reached there by then, because they're only 16 light years away, and all the other stuff, watching Ally McBeal and all the, like, maybe Vulcans become a little more human because they change a few things about the way they act before we see them again in the original series, which is a weird thing to say, but you know what I mean. We've chosen to take this route. Everyone keeps saying no one's done this before. Start with Enterprise, so it has the virtue of not having been tried before.
Well, we will see later in a very good episode that the Vulcans are definitely susceptible to be influenced. When I'm referring to Carbon Creek.
Yes, we see a Vulcan becoming.
So that very well could be that they've changed a bit.
All right, so here we go. It's my turn to give my review. This is a fantastic episode of Star Trek. It is an exciting and fun episode of Star Trek. This is Star Trek like I always wanted. Everything that we wanted from Star Trek is in here. We have a little bit of Boy Scouting by Archer. We have a little bit of beautiful women going on. We have a fantastic, absolutely great Star Trek score that in this one wasn't that in the forefront. I think that what happens in this episode is, one, we have to wonder about the makeup of the Klingon government. So it's thought-provoking. This episode, after last week's heavy moral dilemma, as we should put it, it was nice. It was great to step down from a very serious Star Trek and have a Star Trek that was fun. We concentrated on the fun. We concentrated on the Federation was good. We concentrated on the fact that the crew must be moral. This was great Star Trek that didn't break any other Star Trek. I loved getting in and out of there and seeing Archer being like, a hero in a lot of ways. I love seeing our crew be brave. I love seeing them use their resourcefulness to have a solution. I love the decon chamber at the end with the doctor telling them they can go and they decide to stay in there. You know what? Even to Paul, like, if you say that, like, if you're scoffing at the idea that a Vulcan would ever do this, how about this in world for you? It would be logical that her crewmates and her would be more closely bonded together and therefore making the fragile emotional humans that much more likely to perform optimally and therefore in a way that she would approve of more if she humors them now.
Maybe. Oh, here's a thought. Maybe her quasi mind meld with Hoshi kind of had something to do with that.
Her mind meld didn't go beyond more like the kind of if you and I went to like somebody who was trained in like just meditation, you know what I mean, tapping our palms.
But it cracked the window a little bit,
a little bit. I agree.
Maybe at least give her a little bit different understanding. Because Paul seemed like she was becoming more sympathetic.
Here's an in-world. How about this one? Vulcans don't realize that they're picking up on the humans' emotions in an empathic way that the Vulcans refuse to admit they have in their Vulcan hubristicness. And that, like, an interesting Star Trek story that would be new would be to have, like, you find out that there's like a part of the Vulcan brain that was long thought to be dormant, and the research has been suppressed by the Vulcan Science Council, and that since first contact, this part of the primitive Vulcan mind has come back. And you could even have some Vulcans who weren't okay with it and have some conflict over this. And you can find out, maybe people had more value for the Vulcan mindset before first contact and after first contact. And you could have some anti-first contact people and some pro-first contact people. And you know what? Like, start debating about how this part of the Vulcan primitive mind is firing again. Will we turn back into Romulans? And then have somebody feel like, like we have to be brave enough. And if we've learned anything from our human friends is that we have to trust in the best angles and angels of our nature. And that if we should go forward trusting the best angels of our nature, that perhaps logic will govern this awakening of new emotions. And then the hubris kicks back in where they're just like, of course our logic will overwhelm this new influx of emotion. It is a minor inconvenience, and that's it. So the Vulcans, without realizing it, have rationalized the way that they've become slightly more humane in general by the time TOS comes around.
You know what? Something occurred to me when you were just talking about the Vulcans and they're suppressing the teachings of Sirach. It was very Planet of the Apes, like with the way that the ape government was concealing all that's like, no, you don't want to go look at that statue over there. It's the forbidden zone.
Don't go play with that talking human baby doll.
Yeah.
What a human constructed.
I just realized the connection there. Huh. Maybe they pulled from it.
I've been waiting for it.
thought
Yeah.
that this episode was great. It was fun. It was like, you know what? The introduction stands. My introduction was, I thought, well written. Buckle up. It's huge. It had Klingons. It had guts. It had everything we loved about Star Trek. Get ready for a ride, right? They do the right thing when they come across the ship trapped in the gas giant. They're there just because they're curious. Again, the humans are the most curious of all the creatures in space, and that's their saving grace. And then the other thing I keep saying is, I believe that the Roddenberry meta is that the humans have the capacity when they wanted to be the most dangerous creatures in space. We're so much more dangerous than the Romulans. The Romulans had no idea what they were getting into when they started messing with humans, because certain humans are really competitive. I give this episode of Star Trek an A+. It was fun.
Wow.
It was really enjoyable.